Warning, we are not trained or licensed professionals. Do not take any advice that we give as official doctoral prescribed medical treatment. We only use the name as a means to appreciate cinema as a therapeutic device, not to be confused with drugs, antidepressants, or any other forms of enhancements that you might find in legal states. Please enjoy responsibly.
Additional disclaimer. If the film says we can say it too. So check the film rating, and that will be our episode rating. Welcome to Film Therapy.
This is Film Therapy.
I'm Madison.
I am Jake, I think.
We are your co-hosts. It's a lovely Wednesday today.
Not yet Thursday.
Thursday. Happy Thursday. We are excited to talk about Terminator 1 and Terminator 2 this week. Not the rest of the Terminators, just the first two.
Yep. The only ones that matter.
I had not seen these before. And also, in our last episode, we asked if you, as our audience, prefer the recaps or not. But sadly, that episode has not aired yet for us as we are recording now. So I don't know what to do about the recap.
Well, since we gave it last time, we can skip it this time.
Okay.
And then we can judge of the two.
All right. We will skip the recap this week just in case it goes better without the recap. And we'll just get straight into our thoughts about Terminator.
Maddie, since you had not seen either of these films before, what did you think of each of them individually? Let's start with the first one.
Yeah,
What did you think of it, of the first Terminator from 1984?
I'm ashamed I hadn't seen these movies, but I'm glad I have now. The first one made me laugh a lot within the first 20 minutes. I just thought it was super cheesy and like what is this? He's all naked, of course. He comes out of the portal all naked because, you know, he's Arnold Schwarzenegger and he's got muscles, and why not put him naked, and why not make the rules of the universe be like, no, you can't travel through the portal with clothes. That wouldn't make any sense. Of course. So then we've got him, then we've got Sarah Connor riding around on her little tiny moped thing.
It's great.
I just couldn't take that seriously. But I really appreciate the way I'm just jumping into like my strongest
Yeah, go right ahead.
opinion of Sarah Connor right now. This is like what the main takeaway of what I have. They really did a good job making her character seem super badass, but not super badass in a way that's expected. She just is that way. We see her and her roommate at their house. Sarah has a pet iguana, first of all, like super cool. Of course, her roommate is like, ew, that's so gross. I'm gonna go make out with my boyfriend. And so then we see like the juxtaposition of Sarah and Ginger, her roommate.
Ginger.
And how Sarah she's not like a badass. Wait, is that her name?
Yeah, Ginger's her roommate name. I just think it's funny.
Okay. Yeah, Ginger, yeah. And then, because it's not like Sarah's this badass biker chick. Like, sure, she rides a moped, but she's not in like a pink Mustang, you know? It just kind of is like, she has the opportunity to become super badass like she does in the second one, where she's all ripped and just stern, and she fights for what she thinks is right. So the first one really sets that up in such a good way, I thought. They don't make her like a sex symbol either. It's not like she's wearing these tight, revealing clothes the whole time. She just looks normal. But she realizes the power she has and the position that she's in, and that's what makes her life change, and how she raises her son for the time she can and everything. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, for sure.
There were lots of shots of wheels on cars. Like a lot. Like a lot.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. So in the first part, you know, we see a big tank rolling over skulls in the year 2029 in LA. And then we see this car run over another toy car. And then we see
Arnold get run over by that toy car, but it's now a real car.
Right. Later on. Yeah. Just like so many shots of wheels on the cars. I don't know why. I mean, I understand that one for the setup for later, like where the car runs over the toy car and then the toy car comes up later and gets Arnold. But the other ones, I'm like, why? Why is there so many of these? There was an obscene amount. I thought the music was absolutely horrible. It was like such 80s cheese factor of action films. Like, yeah, I hated it.
I thought the music for both movies is incredible.
I thought the music for the second one was very good.
The main theme of both movies is the same. It's just the first one is more it's more subdued.
Synthy.
It's more synthy, but it's like the second one's more like actiony. but they both have like the same like main theme. It's just the first one's like quieter and more subdued.
Okay.
So as far as the main themes go, I think both themes are great. But like some of the more like melancholic ones, I see what you're talking about. Like when Sarah's like on her moped, you know, like there's like that little music that's like.
Yeah.
But I still like it. So.
Okay. So then I was like, did people really take this seriously when it came out? And then but of course, once I got into the story more, I started to respect it. I was like, okay, this is good. This is a good story. I like where this is going. It's just like the action, like the effects obviously were not very good. That kind of took me out of it. But also I respected it too, like all the practical stuff. It's just crazy how they actually made everything, you know, when he has his robot eye and he like has a whole face on top of his face. Mm-hmm. That's pretty crazy. But not cool that I could recognize that, but you know, it's the 80s. I'll give them that. There was one part they had a really good L cut where yep, it was when Sarah had called the police station after they were trying to contact her. Then I think maybe it's the part where Arnold is looking in the phone book and it says like Sarah Connor, and then when they're still on that shot, you can hear the cops go, "It's her." And then it shifts to their scene where she calls them. Yeah. They missed a call from her or something. Yeah. I really like that. That was nice.
That was great.
Because I've been watching a lot of The Crown recently, and they don't have very good L cuts. They're way too distracting for me. They like go on for way too long in the previous shot, and I get confused on who's talking and stuff. So I don't like that. It's really suspenseful. I thought when they were going down, like chasing down the Sarahs in the phone book, I really liked how they did that. So I texted you, or I told you this during the movie, when she's running into that tech noir club, it looked a lot like this club from the Black Mirror episode San Junipero. And so I told you that, and I told you to watch it, and I think you still should.
Yeah, that's something I definitely want to check out.
It's like, it looks a lot like similar, and maybe that's like the way a lot of the clubs looked in the 80s, I'm sure, but it just reminded me of it like right off the bat.
Well, interestingly enough, like tech noir is kind of like the genre of the movie because it has a lot of noir elements, but it's also like sci-fi. So I actually think that's like a great way to describe the genre as tech noir.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a good thought.
I don't know if that was intentional, but I just think that's like a cool little like interesting way you could look at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's sweet.
I mean, to be clear, like I heard that somewhere and I was like, wow, that's a really neat idea. Like I wonder if that was intentional.
Yeah. Probably. I thought that she was going to end up being the important one, that they were trying to kill her because she was going to go on to do something important.
Which she does.
Which she does. She's the mother. So then I was confused. I was like, well, why didn't they just go back in time after she already had her son and kill the son? But then that goes on for the next movie. So, yeah. It all makes sense now.
Yep.
By the end of the movie, I really liked it. I didn't think the action sequences went on for like too long. Mm-hmm. I did feel that way in the second one. But
yeah, I did a little bit too.
And I thought it was really engaging the whole time. I liked the way it started. I liked the way it ended.
So I saw the second one first, ironically. But then I went back because I heard that was like the one to see. And then I went back and watched the first one and I'm like, wow, this is really good. I think the first time I watched it, I was like really sick with the flu or something. This was when I was like a kid, or when I was like 14 years old or something like that. So I distinctly remember like the first time I watched it, like I'd like watch for 20 minutes and I didn't feel well, so then I like got sick or something, and then I kept like watching the movie. Not to get too gross. I remember like I watched it a few more times, and I remember I liked it more every time I watched it. And then later on, it just became one of my favorites, just because I love how 80s it is. I love how it has this kind of like gross, slimy kind of like look to it, but it's also sleek at the same time, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. I really dug like the mythology and the backstory, and obviously the action's great and the music is really good. I think, especially like during the actions, like during the chase scenes, the music is great. You may disagree. Both of these movies are movies that I really like a lot. As far as specific notes I have, I'll talk more about Sarah, how I feel about Sarah when we get to Terminator 2. But Sarah Connor's one of my favorite like female characters ever. Mm-hmm. Like she's just like, when I think of like favorite like female characters in film, she's like in my top 10, just because her arc between this movie alone, but it especially in both movies, is just incredible, I think.
Yeah.
I love the opening credits. I love how the movie opens in 2029. Hopefully Los Angeles doesn't look like that, but we're kind of getting closer every year, so fingers crossed.
Seriously.
I love that Dick Miller has a cameo. He's great in everything he's in. He's also
Okay.
in Gremlins, which we still gotta watch. You still have to see that. When you see him in Gremlins, you're like, oh, that's who it is, because I saw Gremlins when I was a kid. So, but anyway, he's Mr. Futterman from Gremlins, and he's in other movies too. But he's
What's he in this?
he's the he's the guy that Arnold buys the guns from, and then and then he's like, hey, you got to pay for those, and Arnold's like, wrong, and then shoots him. James Cameron and David Lynch both reuse a lot of the same actors, which I love it when directors do that, because it really shows like a close like relationship between director and actors.
Wes Anderson.
Yeah, Wes Anderson also, and Tarantino.
And Greta Gerwig.
Yeah, Greta Gerwig. But yeah, so Bill Paxton.
Yes, Bill Paxton.
Bill Paxton was in this for a minute, but him, Michael, I don't know how to say his last name, but the one who plays Kyle, and Lance Henriksen, he plays the other cop, not the one that's like close to Sarah, but the other one. All three of them are in Aliens, which James Cameron made 2 years later, which is also a really great sequel. So we'll have to watch those sometime soon. Double feature those. Yes, those three actors are all in Aliens, and Bill Paxton's also obviously in Titanic, and obviously Twister, but that's not a James Cameron movie. And Spy Kids 2 and 3. I also love how Dr. Silberman carries over between the two movies, because like in this movie he's like kind of a minor character, and then he's like, boy, this Kyle Reese guy's like a total psycho, and then he walks right past Arnold and doesn't see him, and then in Terminator 2 he finally sees Arnold and Robert Patrick, and I'm like, oh man, I just love that they brought him back. Then like that moment with him and Sarah when she's like incapacitates him is so satisfying.
Yes.
But we'll probably talk about that again. The police scene is crazy. Like when Arnold says, I'll be back, and then he drives a car through the police station and just starts like, everybody just starts dying. It's so tense, and it's so that for me is like when the movie like starts to get really, really good. There's the scenes before with like when Kyle and Arnold are both trying to find Sarah, and then when he explains to her what's happening, and then like right then is like when the movie starts to really pick up for me. I love like all the callbacks in both Terminator 1 and 2, but I love the like the things that happen in both movies. But I love how they both have the get out like line from the main bad guy, because in this one Arnold says it to the truck driver, and then in the second one the T-1000 says it to the guy in the helicopter.
Oh yeah.
And then the only other thing, I talked about more of the minor things, but the only other thing I wanted to mention was I never really understood why they never made an extended cut of this movie, especially after Terminator 2 came out, because like the major scenes that they removed from this movie were taken out because, they hint at it, they set up the sequel, and the things that they set up happen in Terminator 2. So I know it's not really needed, but it's just kind of a cool, like, it just makes the movies even more tied together. Like, the factory at the end that Sarah and Kyle are at, that's the Cyberdyne factory, which they obviously go to in Terminator 2, except it's much bigger now, obviously. And then one of the cops, the one who was like really nice to Sarah, it turns out he like ended up believing Kyle Reese, which is kind of set up earlier, and then he like gives him a gun as he dies and says like, hey, you gotta protect Sarah now, you're all she's got, which is true. And then there's this one scene when like Sarah and it sets up that I think they just end up at Cyberdyne. They don't plan to go there, but there's a scene between Sarah and Kyle that sets it up, where Sarah's like, like, I found them in the phone book. I found like Cyberdyne. We should go destroy them. And then Kyle's like, but my mission is only to protect you. And then she convinces him to go. And yeah,
screw the mission.
Yeah, that's what she says, is like, screw the mission.
Yeah, I mean, because it would have been an easy to make that extended cut. Obviously they already had the scenes. So. Right,
like they're on the disc and they're in pretty good quality. And the movie's short too. It's like an hour and 45 minutes. So like if they put those scenes in, it'd just be like 2 hours. So, but then again, I'm just saying a hypothetical extended cut would be nice, but it's not the end of the world, obviously.
Maybe one day.
And for Terminator 2, we did watch the special edition version, which I think is the best of all three versions. So that has the extended cut.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
Yeah, so as far as the first movie goes, that's kind of all I have to say. One thing I wanted to know your opinion on is, how do you feel about the romance in the movie, like the pacing of it? Do you think it like flows well, like it works?
Yeah, I do, for sure.
Yeah, I do too.
I like it. It makes sense.
Yeah, that's
it wasn't a surprise to me that they ended up together and like he's John Connor's dad.
Mm-hmm.
That made sense. And I mean, it was a little silly that he just saw a picture of her and then was like, I'm in love.
Hey, love at first sight.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but I mean, then once they meet each other.
Yeah, but also like John would have told him all these stories about his mom. And, you know, it's his mom, so he's going to be like, man, this was so cool when she did this and when she did that.
So he kind of knew her, yeah.
Yeah, there's like that scene when they're like in that tunnel somewhere, and Kyle says like, oh, there was this time when John said you did this, and Sarah's like, you're talking about things I haven't even done in the past tense.
Yeah, super crazy.
Yeah, so I think it works too. I just want to know your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I obviously didn't like that he died, but I could see that happening too. It just kind of needed to happen just to make sense with everything. His time travel shit. It's just like, okay, your job is done now. You can just go away now because it's going to get confusing.
Your job is done.
You have sowed your seed.
Oh, God. Yeah, okay. So, do you have any other thoughts on the first movie?
I don't think so.
So then we will move on to the second film from 1991. I think this extended cut came out in 93, I believe.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so the movie takes place in 95, so it's 11 years after the first one, because John is 10. Do you have any thoughts to add for the second one?
Yeah, I love the opening. All the fire and stuff was super cool. All the credits. There was a lot of fire in this movie, and I liked it a lot.
Yep.
The visual effects were extremely advanced compared to the first one, and I enjoyed that a lot. I thought they did a really good job, especially with the T-1000 Terminator, how he morphs into everything.
Yeah.
Very cool. That scene where he's on the floor and he like slowly melts up into a being.
Yes.
And that black and white checkered floor, that was really cool. And then, of course, I was getting, I told you Friday the 13th, part 7, but I think I meant part 8 or part 9. Whichever one, Jason, it becomes different people the entire time.
Oh, God. Yeah, that's...
Which one is that?
That's part 9. That's...
Part 9, yeah. I was getting a little bit of those vibes when the T-1000 Terminator started to turn into all these other people. But thankfully, for the rest of the movie, he was basically himself. It didn't get too carried away with that.
Comparing this movie to Friday the 13th Part 9 is like comparing a beautiful, fine, aged wine to a 30-day-old McDonald's burger. That is... There you go.
I'm sorry.
No.
I couldn't help thinking that.
No. I mean, think what you want, relate to whatever you want, of course.
Oh, that's funny.
I mean, for me, comparing those two movies is like comparing this to that. So.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's what I meant. I'm not saying your comparison in and of itself was bad. I'm just saying the movie
I get
comparing
it.
Anyway.
So the part where we see Arnold comes back, obviously, and then there's the T-1000. So automatically, based on the first one, we assume that the T-1000 guy, the guy dressed as a cop, is good, and Arnold is bad, and they're both out to get John Connor.
And that T-1000 is a human, and he's like the Kyle Reese replacement of the movie.
Yes, exactly. So then when we see him get shot and he like
morphs,
explodes metal and morphs and stuff, we're like, what the heck? And then Arnold takes John Connor with him on his motorcycle and doesn't kill him right away. We're kind of like, wait, what? So I was surprised by that. Then he claims that John sent him back in time again and reprogrammed him to protect him this time. So, so good. So now they're friends. It's so cute the way their relationship expands throughout the movie. How John is teaching him to become more human. Oh, it's like in the first movie, their answering machine at Ginger's and Sarah's house. It says "Machines need love too," and it kind of like transfers over into the second one, which I thought was cute.
Yeah.
And then, oh man, when Terminator was explaining to John about all the future and stuff, I was like, oh man, this is ridiculous. And I thought that at the same moment that John says, this is deep. I was like, yeah, dude, you're losing me here. I said they should have called it 2 Terminators instead of Terminator 2.
2 Terminators, 2 Judgment Days.
Yes. Yeah, so Sarah keeps having this nightmare of a playground exploding in the fires and chaos that will eventually happen if Cyberdyne continues its technology and everything. So that's like haunting her. Oh yeah, because she's in the mental hospital. We see her there. Well, yeah, because John was like with his foster parents, and I was like, why, where's Sarah? And then they show her in the mental hospital. So yeah, she's all badass. She's super ripped. She's like obviously convinced in her story, sticking to her story that she knows about the future and her son is very important and everything. But then she goes to her, I don't want to say warden, but her
Supervisor? Doctor?
supervisor person, yeah, and says like, I'm ready to have less security and I want to have visitors. I want to see my son. I don't believe anything I was talking about. I'm totally fine now. Don't worry. And then of course they don't believe her, so she's like
Flips out.
she flips out. She goes crazy. It's a good Mother's Day movie. We talk a lot about Mother's Day movies.
I don't know if yeah, I was just going to say yeah, it's a great Mother's Day movie. and this one actually is, because both of these movies are all about like the mother and son and their relationship and how far you'll go, you know. I really think that's best expressed in the scene when she just I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but in the scene right after she almost kills Miles Dyson, and then John comes in, and then she says like you came to make sure I was okay, and I'm just like, man, like I felt that, like such a good moment.
So sweet.
Yeah.
Except for that part where they are reunited right after she escapes from the hospital, and she's like, she tells John to come here, and he thinks he's gonna get a hug, but then she's like patting him down.
That sure part too, I'm like, no.
It's like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
Just wants a hug. I think the moral of the story is that even if your kid is a delinquent, he could still be important someday.
And he can still be a good kid.
Still be a good kid. Even if he steals some money.
Yeah, which she taught him how to do, so she'd be proud.
Exactly.
And it comes back later because then he's able to get like the chip, so it worked out.
Yeah, that was cool.
I loved that.
Like I said earlier, I got a little bored with the action sequence at the end. I was kind of falling asleep. But that's just me. I don't really like really long action sequences or car chases or anything, so I realized that I don't really enjoy movies like that, so I know that other people can enjoy that for sure. There's just like so many window breaks you can handle before it's like, all right, we get it.
No, I was feeling a little bit of that too, but also I definitely was feeling that a little bit too, close to the end.
Once we finished, I asked Jake to tell me about the rest of the Terminator movies, so he explained all those, and I said, yep, I don't need to see those.
No, you really don't. The only one I've seen is Terminator 3, and as a dumb, fun action movie, it's fine, but as a story, it really doesn't work. I don't think. Then I didn't see the failed trilogy of the trilogy of failed trilogy starters, which is Salvation, Genesis, and Dark Fate.
Genesis.
Yeah, it's Genesis with a Y. Genesis. It's like, here comes Genesis. We can get one for you in 6 days. Anyway, I love all the characters in this movie, but I love how all the characters have an arc. You know, like the Terminator, obviously, and then Sarah and John and even Miles Dyson a little bit. I think as far as like child performances go, I think John Connor in this movie is one of my favorites. Yeah. He's played by Edward Furlong is his name, and he never played John Connor in any of the other sequels, which is one of the reasons why you don't need to. Not saying the other actors don't do a good job, but you know, just saying like the consistency is better when there's. But yeah, anyway, that doesn't matter. I really like.
No, I thought he did a good job too.
Yeah, like because when the movie starts off, he's like this little like shithead delinquent who just like mouths off to his foster parents and goes and just kind of steals money and uses it at the arcade. Then when he like has his scenes with Arnold and they're sitting down and John's sitting down and then he's saying, you know, like my mom was raising me this way to be this great leader, and then when she got taken into the mental institute, it's like, oh, like everybody said like your mom's actually crazy, but then he's like, man, you know, she was really right the whole time. And then you know, just having that dichotomy in your head, like the way he explains it is really makes a lot of sense, but like thinking of that over in your mind is just so like that would make you kind of go crazy, you could say.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, also that's one thing like Sarah says in that one scene when she sees them like high-fiving each other, then she says like, you know, like that's why the Terminator is like a good like surrogate dad for him, is because, you know, he's for a bunch of reasons, but you know, he's just like he's always going to like listen to what John's going to say. Like what he has to say. Like if he needs somebody to talk to.
Protect him always.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I can't believe you said that some of those scenes were deleted, like when he was teaching him how to smile.
Mm-hmm.
And what other were the big scenes that were taken out? When we first meet Miles, that whole family scene, which I thought was good. It set up like for us to treat him as a human.
Yeah. The DVD I used to have like listed all the scenes like in the book or whatever, because it was like an old really fancy DVD, and then it said like, here's all the scenes that were put back in, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. I think the first scene with Miles when he's at like the office, that I think that's in the other version, but the scene with him and his family isn't. But I feel like both of them are important because then you see like the two sides of his life, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you get a sense for his family before, you know, shit hits the fan.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that really makes it more dramatic
Mm-hmm.
and suspenseful when she comes in trying to kill him.
The reason why I prefer this is my favorite version, is because there's so many little setups that they don't need to be set up because they're still paid off pretty well in the theatrical release. But I think having those little extra building blocks just makes you know when you get down to the wire, it makes those moments more tense, and it makes you feel more for the characters because you spend more time with them.
And the version we watched was 2 hours and 34 minutes.
Yeah, 33, 34,
So,
something like that.
If anyone's looking for that, I watched it on Vudu, and you have the copy, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because
Yes.
the Blu-ray I have has all 3 versions on it. There's an even longer version, and the only difference is like there's one extra scene of the T-1000 in John's house, which is whatever, and then there's an alternate ending, which is, you know, also fine. The other scene I really like that got taken out is when they're resetting the Terminator's CPU so he can learn, like, you know, learn new things, and then
yeah.
and then they take it out, and they're gonna set the switch to take it out, and then Sarah's gonna destroy it, but then John tells her not to, and then they argue back and forth, and then John says, you know, Mom, if I'm supposed to be like this really great leader someday, and you won't listen to me, how do you expect other people to listen to me? And I'm just like, damn, like that's just so
Exactly.
I love that. And then you know,
damn.
yeah, it feels almost like a pivotal moment. Even though the movie concludes the way it does, I still think that's a big part of John's like arc, especially with his relationship with Sarah. And I think him standing up to her like that and him starting to accept his role as a leader again just really is a really important moment, and I wish I hadn't cut it out. But speaking of leadership moments, I also love when they get to the Dyson house and John and the Terminator get there to stop. Sarah stops before she kills Miles, and then John and the Terminator show up, and then they're gonna like reveal, like, you know, the Terminator takes his like a knife and like cuts his arm open and shows that it's made of metal, so then they can convince Miles that this is real. And then John like takes the little boy and says like, hey, let's go look at your room, and he just like, because, you know, he just takes initiative. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I love showing my friends this movie when they don't know that Arnold's the good guy, because I feel like a lot of people do know that. So like I showed a couple of my friends in high school, and their reaction was just the same as yours. They're like, what the hell's going on? Like
Yeah.
What's happening? Because the first movie, when you think about it, the twist that Arnold isn't human, if you don't know anything about the movie, that is kind of a twist at the time. Both movies are very similar structure-wise and plot-wise, but it's the differences that make them unique.
When you said the story was similar, I was thinking hopefully it's not as similar as Home Alone and
I
Home
was
Alone
just gonna
2.
say it is, but it isn't. It is kind of like Home Alone 2, except it's a little bit different.
It's enough different that you could double feature them and not feel like you just watched 2 of the same movies.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I enjoyed watching them back to back. Well, I did watch something else in between because we watched one day, the second one the next day.
Mm-hmm.
It was a good time.
Also, Robert Patrick is really good as the T-1000, because when you meet him, he's just like a normal guy, and you're thinking he's the good guy. And then when,
And like kind of on the scrawny side too.
Yeah. So you're thinking like, okay, he's not going to be as muscular, so that's going to be like the fight, and he's also human. But then when you find out, not only is he a Terminator, not only is he the bad guy, not only is he liquid metal, not only is he stronger than Arnold, like, and then you see how his facial expression changes into like it's time to get down and do business mode, and he just like, it's just like really intense, and I love it.
Yes.
When I first watched the movie, I was trying to view it in my head, like, okay, so I want to act like I'm watching it for the first time, and like Robert Patrick's like, you know, like in my mind, I'm like, oh, he is the good guy, and then like I got myself confused because I'm like, wait, which one's which? Like for the first like 5 minutes.
It all comes to a head when they're in the hallway at the mall, I think, and then I was like, wait, what?
It's so tense. I love that scene so much. Even if it's a little bit longer, I think the action scenes are done really well. Like I love like how John's on his little bike, moped, whatever, and then the T-1000 has like this big like truck, semi, whatever. It shows really the differences between the two of them, and I think it's a great moment. Also, it's a great sequence. Mm-hmm. Also, when you find out that the T-1000 it can like turn into people, and then he turns into like John's foster mom, and then and then she just like moves her hand off screen, you don't know what she does, and then they pull back, and it's like she has like this metal knife like through the stepdad and through the foster dad and through the milk carton. That's such a cool effect.
That was awesome.
And also, the dog was barking the whole time, so that's how, because the dogs can sniff out Terminators.
Mm-hmm.
How did you feel about the ending of this movie?
Oh, let's see. So it ends with her, like, voiceover, and there...
Arnold goes
well,
into the
Terminator
vat.
died.
Mm-hmm.
That's sad. I didn't like that because obviously John got along with him very well.
Mm-hmm.
But they'll meet again one day, I suppose.
Yep. Terminator 3.
Yes. Well, I don't know, because I don't know if Sarah would end up going to jail or not for all this shit. So it was kind of like, oh, I hope they're okay. But wait, did they go on the run?
I don't know, but then
end?
also like she was like bleeding too, so like pretty bad.
That's right. Where were they when she was doing the voiceover? Was it just like an overview of LA?
It was a Lost Highway.
Lost Highway?
Yeah, that's how Lost Highway starts, like the same shot of the highway.
Oh, I don't know that.
Oh, that's good. We should watch it. I'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, I think they're just on the highway because I thought it was like the same shot as when they're going to Cyberdyne. Like it's the same, shot.
Oh.
But I guess they could have gone on the run. But like it doesn't really matter because it's the unknown future, like she says.
They make their own fate. What did you think of the ending?
What you said, I think it's really good. I think it's very fitting. It's very conclusive. They do not need to make any more sequels, even though they did.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's canon 1 and 2. That's all that matters.
Mm-hmm. What else did you watch this week?
So this week I watched based on a recommendation, I watched the movie Waiting from the early 2000s starring Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty funny. I enjoyed watching it.
Yeah, I think it's funny.
It has that slice of life feel that I really liked. And then based on multiple recommendations, I watched Soul, the new Pixar movie on Plus, and it was really good. I kind of saw it at a really appropriate time because I really connected with the message of the movie. That was really deep. And then after months and months of deliberation and waiting, and I finally watched the remainder of David Lynch's feature films that I'm able to find. I still have not seen Inland Empire because I can't find it, but I've seen the other ones. So I watched Lost Highway, which at first I wasn't into, but as it went on, I thought it got much better, and by the end, I was like, oh my gosh, I love this. Yeah, it stars Bill Pullman and Patricia Arquette, and yeah, it was really good. And then I watched the Straight Story, which this is the one on Plus. G-rated wholesome David Lynch movie. I wasn't huge on it, but it had a lot of really great moments. It's a very slow burn movie. You have to really be patient when you watch it, and the ending is really great. The ending is fantastic. I understand it's supposed to be a slow movie, and that's like the point of it is to kind of drive you crazy, but it does drive you crazy when you watch it because you're like, oh, can you just hurry up already? But then when you get to the ending, you're like, oh, that's why the pacing was the way it was. It's like the small little moment. It's so poignant. It's great. That part's great. And then after a while, I finally rewatched Mulholland Drive, which is amazing. It's insane. It's crazy. It's deep. It's depressing. It's disturbing. It's beautiful. It's lovely. It's a great love story. But it still has the scariest moment ever in movies, I think. The 2 scariest moments in cinema I've ever seen. Actually, I want to do that as a double feature sometime, like Lost Highway and Mulholland Drive, because they're kind of the inverse of each other structure-wise. Not to spoil either one. One movie is framed this way and the other one is framed kind of in the opposite way, and they both have similar themes and similar character arcs. But yeah, also shout out to Angelo Badalamenti, whose score for both films is incredible, as is his stuff for Twin Peaks, but that's kind of obvious.
Shout out. Hopefully he listens.
That would be an honor if he listened to us. If anyone from Twin Peaks is listening to us,
oh my God.
Even the person who was like the janitor, like in the or the PA on set, even if you're listening to us, that'd be amazing.
Yep.
Now if you could somehow get Kyle MacLachlan to listen to us, that'd be perfect.
Somehow I feel like he might be the most likely to listen to us.
Honestly, yes.
He's so sweet.
He's such a wonderful human being. Now I just want to watch a Kyle MacLachlan movie. What did you watch?
So I watched The Host after we watched The Terminator, and it kind of messed me up because it was a sci-fi movie, and well, okay, to be clear, The Host in 2013 based on the Stephanie Meyer novel.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also watched The Host by Bong Joon-ho, but I'll talk about that in a second. So back to The Host with Stephanie Meyer. I watched it after we watched Terminator, and it was it confused me when we watched Terminator 2 because I was like, wait, didn't this happen in Terminator 1 and the blah, 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 but it was happening in The Host and kind of confused me a little bit. But this was one of my favorite books, The Host is, and it's like super good. It goes into a lot of depth about a different alien race and like how they live and survive and everything, which I thought was really cool.
That's awesome.
The movie, it's just one of those like teen movies that came out around that period with Twilight and the Hunger Games and everything. So it has that element to it, but I still thought it was good. Saoirse Ronan's great, obviously, and so I enjoyed rewatching it. So then I watched Me, Myself, and Irene with my boyfriend, but I was really drunk and I didn't like it. I usually do like movies about dissociative identity disorder because I really like that disorder. I don't know. I think it's very interesting, but this movie did not entertain me. It was just weird.
I did not know Saoirse Ronan was in The Host. I'm still processing that. I'm like, man, I haven't seen it or read the book, but now I'm curious now.
Mm-hmm.
She said but you did say the movie was just kind of whatever. So I'm also like,
it's like, you should read the book.
Okay.
Then I watched The Host by Bong Joon-ho from 2006, and that was awesome. I hadn't seen another Bong Joon-ho movie since Parasite, and I'm really glad I watched that one. I thought it had similar themes and everything to Parasite, which I really, really liked. It was about a monster in the river due to like mutations from chemicals being dumped in the river, and it was really scary, and it was really sad, and it was like, and it was also funny. So it's like he did a great job combining all of those genres just like he did in Parasite and everything. So I recommend that. That's free on Amazon Prime. Then after that, I found other movies by Bong Joon-ho. I was like, how many more can I watch for free? So I went on Hulu and I started Barking Dogs Don't Bite, which I think is his first film, and that's really funny. I only got maybe halfway through before I was getting tired, but I'm going to finish that, and I really liked it so far. So yes, next week we are going to be watching The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, which is a really calming, relaxing movie. It changed the way that I think about life, and it's just therapeutic. So we're gonna go chill for next week.
Okay, great.
After this action-packed week of Terminator.
Great. and it was in the last decade, so it's pretty modern.
Yes, fairly new.
Yeah.
If you go home and watch that, we'll come back. We'll talk about it next week. I'm very excited. This has been session 24.
24.